Love and Hip Hop Atlanta has once again ejected the ladders of trust. This time, the key to Kirk Frost's whole hidden universe is in the hands of Karlie Redd. Karlie entered the room carrying a last envelope. According to sources, she lay it on her final receipt. The table with a calm, focused expression that made everyone pause. The moment that changed the rules is already being referred to by fans. The evidence that no one anticipated. Kirk believed he had permanently buried the evidence. As Karlie opened the package, whispers gave way to gasps as she discovered messages, reservations, and even audio snippets that depicted a more complex double life than anybody could have ever guessed. The actors allegedly froze in utter astonishment, leaving Rasheeda dumbfounded and on the verge of tears. Additionally, Kirk did not sit across from her. She just gazed at the table as if he were waiting for the last blow. Flynn, the internet is already ablaze with admirers yelling. This changes everything across social media threads. Did Karlie push through, or was this her moment of truth? Too much. Keep an eye out because what we're hearing has the potential to completely change every relationship on the program. Karlie Redd entered the lot with a calm assurance as the team was wrapping, shooting a standard scene. Nobody anticipated. It was different from the typical theatrical swagger or humorous sarcasm she often brought to the event. She held it in her palm, her stance unwavering, her gaze steadfast. A plain manila envelope that appeared to weigh the whole universe was in her hand. As she made her move, whispers echoed through the cast. Way to the lounge area, where Bambi and Kirk Frost were sitting and having a calm conversation. Rasheeda lingered close by, her face composed but her eyes wary, as if she could sense the impending storm. Karlie didn't stop. She moved directly to the middle of the room and carefully set the envelope down on the coffee table. The sudden quiet resonated with the prospect of it landing. While Bambi's hand sprang to her lips, Kirk's face furrowed as he glanced up. Rasheeda moved nearer, her eyes meeting as if it had suddenly become radioactive upon the envelope. Karlie opened it and took out the first document snapshot without saying anything. Rasheeda, the rest of the actors have never seen the lady standing next to Kirk. The way the bodies inclined toward one another implied a familiarity, even if they weren't. Touching close for a harmless discussion. She displayed it for everyone to see. It's not just gossip, Karlie murmured quietly, her voice breaking the tension. This is evidence. Rasheeda's eyes widened and her hand sprang to her lips as the camera recorded every response. With his hands on his knees, Kirk bent forward as if preparing for a collision. A loose ring formed as the remaining actors circled around. Fear and curiosity coexisted in their phrases. Karlie placed other documents, including airline schedules for destinations Kirk had never brought up. Hotel invoices with a printed image of text exchanges that suggested a late-night rendezvous and an alias. Every paper she positioned seemed like a brick in the wall that was getting closer to Kirk's meticulously built facade. She went on, I got these weeks ago, but I held on to them, thinking maybe it wasn't my place. However, after seeing the teaser, I came to the realization that certain realities are worthy of being revealed. Rasheeda's gaze became bright with she tried to maintain her composure by blinking away the tears. What are you doing here, Karlie? Her voice trembled as she asked. She met Karlie, who said, Why now? Look, because Rasheeda, you deserve to know. Do you deserve to know the truth before anyone else does? Otherwise, Kirk's mouth trembled, but he remained silent. The quiet dragged on, only disturbed by the sound of machinery being placed all around them. Bambi cleared her throat. That's a lot, she said, stated in a quiet voice. How we respond to it must be cautious. Karlie, however, shook her head. Don't wait any longer. Not after the video from last night. Not after Rasheeda sobbed her way off the set. Everything is altered. By this, the room shivered at the words. Online fans had already begun to piece together rumors, but it was difficult to pretend it was only drama for ratings when it was happening live. The tension seemed uncomfortably genuine. Mimi moved forward after seeing from the sides. She insisted that we need background. Let's listen to Kirk, who was standing slowly and swallowing. He examined every document, then at Rasheeda, followed by Karlie. He spoke in a hushed voice. I wanted you not to see this. He gave Rasheeda a quick look. This is not how I intended things to turn out. Then explain, Rasheeda said in a strained whisper. Justify the current public exhibition of my husband's life. Kirk looked from Rasheeda to Karlie and back again. I believed that I could keep things apart. My marital errors, but I was mistaken. Rasheeda shook her shoulders. She looked at Kirk, tears streaming down her cheeks. But you lied to me, she replied, losing her voice. Karlie's face was inscrutable as she watched. But you lied to our kids. She didn't rejoice. She just saw the truth come to light. As with his head down, Kirk stood there. Drifting closer was the cast. Rasheeda fell toward her knees, collapsing inward as the mental burden grew unbearable. Production let the situation to unfold as crew members waited, uncertain whether to step in or not. Raw events have previously been documented on reality TV, but this seemed different. It was heartbreak without filtering. Kirk knelt next to Rasheeda and touched her shoulder tenderly. "I apologize," he replied quietly. "I'm so sorry." She started crying uncontrollably. Her eyes searched his as she glanced up. "Apologies don't make receipts better." Every tear and trembling in her voice were recorded on video. Later, viewers at home would relive those scenes, discussing Karlie's function as a truthbringer, suffering, and Kirk's honesty. Rasheeda forced herself to get up after what seemed like an age. She gave her cheeks a vigorous wipe. She murmured, "I need air," heaving shoulders. She turned and left Kirk and Karlie in the room without saying another word. Kirk watched her go without moving. On the table, the envelope was open, the paper strewn around like leaves. Karlie stooped to pick up a page, then stopped to glance at Kirk. "Are you prepared to face the future?" Quietly, she asked. Kirk gave a deep, husky nod. They were surrounded by a circle of uncomfortable support from the rest of the cast. Whatever came next, they understood that whether they wanted to or not, they would all participate. Rasheeda leaned against the wall outside the set, shivering in spite of the afternoon's warmth. Text messages from pals and missed calls from Kirk buzzed on her phone. She had an odd clarity in spite of her anguish. Although the truth had freed her from delusions, it also left her defenseless and exposed. Inside manufacturing, a dot is known as a rest. Echoes of the altercation continued after the cameras stopped recording. While helpers pushed the papers aside, crew members spoke quickly to one another, preparing the scene so that the editors may include it into the next episode. The aftermath was all over by the time the sun set over the cityscape of Atlanta. Screenshots of the receipts Karlie had dropped were shared on fan sites, which referred to them as the decisive evidence that altered everything. Trending hashtags like #LOSTRECE and influencers on social media analyzed each picture, making predictions about Kirk's redemption story and Rasheeda's next move. Additionally, Karlie's surprising position as the who had the courage to reveal the secrets. Rasheeda texted Karlie as the night became darker. She was at a loss for words. Her heart was knotted with anger, anguish, and thankfulness. Karlie's response was prompt. "You deserve the truth always." And something changed at that instant. A solitary package and a lady with the courage to open it had changed the story of this season, not trailers or sneak peeks. Every subsequent episode would be affected by the aftermath, and Atlanta's hip-hop and love scene would never be the same. Kirk stood in the middle of Rasheeda's angry departure as the cameras cut away, holding an envelope in the center of the room. Cold against his hand was the last receipt. The sound of the workers on site, he felt as if he was witnessing his own life unravel in slow motion as he ticked off cattle papers and gathered equipment. Karlie stood a few steps away, then circled back. Despite what she had just said, she crossed her arms and kept her gaze steady. Bambi hung uncertainly behind them, uncertain about whether to stick by Kirk's side or comfort Rasheeda. "This doesn't feel real," Bambi said as she moved toward Karlie. "We've seen confrontations in theater clubs and cries of tears, but nothing like this." Karlie folded her arms more tightly and nodded. "This goes beyond television," she said. "We're talking about their lives, real emotions, real consequences." Kirk, in the meanwhile, threw the envelope on the coffee table. The printed receipt that Karlie had marked as the final evidence was surrounded by papers. His head, hands, and shoulders trembled as he slid into the love seat next to the table, as if the weight of his errors were actual stones that were stifling his output. Uncertain whether to step in or give them room, Assistant Claire lingered. Just off camera, she took a quick look at the screen as the filmmakers discussed whether to roll the cameras once again or take a vacation. In the end, they chose to remain. This was too powerful a moment to pass up. The unadulterated and agonizing feeling was just what the network was looking for. Seconds stretched into minutes, and at last Kirk rose, a voice hoarse. He turned to everyone and said, "I have to explain." He seemed to be extracting bravery from an empty hole with each syllable. "The lady in the photo wasn't who you thought she was." Rasheeda tensed up, her eyes glimmering with tears once again. Bambi gasped with surprise. With her arms crossed, Karlie stared, anticipating Kirk's next move. "Listen," Kirk said, as he kept adjusting his wedding ring. "Years ago, we had a falling out. I never intended for those excursions to seem to be secrets. I went there to discuss things and to clear up any confusion. I believed that I was capable of handling it. There was no sound in the room. Later, fans would question whether that explanation made sense. It seemed believable to some. Mistakes are being worked out by two former lovers. For others, it was a feeble cover-up. A mounting pile dot across the set has another lie attached to it. Spice and Mimi stood with their arms clasped together for support. Slowly, Spice shook her head. Spice whispered, "I've never seen someone lie so convincingly." Mimi scowled as she saw Kirk pull back. Desperate or persuasive? She answered, "He's trying anything to save face now, according to Kirk." Said Rasheeda stepped back a few paces. Separating them, she said, "You think I deserve that story?" Voice that is surging yet still in control. "You lied. Tale or no story." Rasheeda's eyes welled with tears as she said, "You'll let me stand there thinking everything was fine while you were living another life." Cheeks. And her voice broke. "Okay," she said as she looked at Karlie. "I trusted you, too." She directed the conversation to Karlie. "Why don't you give me these receipts that you've had for months?" "Private, I wait until everyone is here," Karlie said, her mouth clenched. Inhaled deeply. The reason, she said, because you needed to feel this. You required. Sometimes the truth requires an audience to overcome denial. I wanted the world to see it, to realize I wasn't playing games. Rasheeda's mouth trembled, and she gazed at Karlie for a time before turning her head away. She said, "Perhaps you're right. Perhaps I needed everyone to see. But now that they have, what can we do?" She straightened her shoulders and brushed away her tears. After taking a deep breath, Kirk looked at Bambi, who gave him a barely noticeable headshake, and then he turned back to "Anything you want." "I'm here for it," Rasheeda said in a hushed voice. His tone was sincere, but it depended on who was listening. Whether it was self-preservation or sincerity. Bambi moved closer and touched Rasheeda's arm. The cameras caught that moment of camaraderie as she murmured softly, "You set the pace. We'll follow you," Rasheeda replied, nodding and letting out a trembling breath. It can be an indication that the wreckage is repairing. To reset, production asked for a little pause. In the next scene, crew directors gathered with writers to discuss how to incorporate this emotional peak into the next episode. While members stepped in to clear the table and collect the receipts, they were aware that they had hit a raw nerve, the kind of plot that converts viewers into devoted followers. Rasheeda voluntarily remained behind with Karlie and Kirk. The three of them stood in a tiny circle, the envelope on the floor, now empty. The three facts spread wide apart, and there was an unanswered question in the middle. First, the receipts are gone, Karlie stated calmly, breaking the stillness. Can this family of three, 2 wives, and 1 husband find a way forward? She observed Rasheeda's response, expecting it would provide closure or at least a beginning, but the reality remains. I glanced at Kirk, my eyes still moist but resolute. I know I need honesty every single day now, but I don't know whether we can recover from this," she said. Kirk nodded and gently took Rasheeda's hand, promising her there would be no more shadows, no more secrets from now on. To be honest with you, Bambi and Mimi, their presence served as a reminder to viewers that no one fights greater battles alone, as they remained close by to encourage Rasheeda and provided little smiles. Loyalty and friendship are essential. After the emotional dust cleared, the cast, the laughing and lighthearted banter gradually returned as they gathered to begin recording smaller sequences. Everyone realized that limits had changed online, yet there was a new undertone of caution and respect. Videos and snippets of the last moment of receipt went viral on several platforms, and viewers questioned Kirk's sincerity while applauding Rasheeda's courage. Forums erupted as they applauded Karlie for her prompt response. Team Rasheeda all the way. Karlie is the true MVP and Kirk has to show himself. The envelope was gone by the end of the day, and the set seemed lighter yet deeply altered. Seasons would be characterized by moments like these, unvarnished, unadulterated, and genuine. The receipts were gathered for proof, but the impression persisted. Karlie and Bambi strolled out hand in hand as the cameras finally shut off for the evening, their bond stronger after all they had been through together. Behind them, the empty set loomed like a testament to the strength of truth and the price of keeping it hidden for too long, as Kirk walked silently but resolutely by Rasheeda. Still reeling from the intensity of the argument, Karlie exited the stage under the last of the dusk light. Inside, the team went to reset for the next scene. But the conversation rapidly shifted to the film, with most of them discussing all they had just seen in whispered tones. Every shiver in Rasheeda's voice, every glint of remorse in Kirk's eyes, and the icy determination in Karlie's stance had been caught on tape. Eventually, The video of Karlie dropping that last receipt went viral on social media. Twitter users recut it into dozens of short movies, each of which focuses on Rasheeda's moment of incredulity. The most tragic moment in the history of the program, according to commentators, was Kirk's silent stumble and Karlie's quiet delight. Backstage, Kirk and Rasheeda were led to a tiny private area as websites conjectured on the prospects of Kirk's marriage surviving. Space offset. The producers intended to provide them with a quick chance to deal with the aftermath in a more controlled setting. It was now time for Kirk and Rasheeda to face up. Karlie was invited, but she graciously refused, saying she had done her share. Rasheeda sat at a circular table in the darkened room, the manila envelope closing on the surface before her. Kirk walked in and softly shut the door behind him. There were no lights or cameras, just a producer sitting quietly off to the side. "I'm sorry," Kirk murmured, his voice hoarse, after taking a long breath. "I am aware that I have caused you more pain than anything else." Rasheeda trembled in the shoulders. "I don't even know if I can trust that apology," she said in a whisper as she examined the envelope. Kirk grabbed the envelope and said, "You've given me reasons to doubt you for so long. I want you to have these," he said. "All of them," he replied. He took out a stack of fresh papers, further flight logs, restaurant receipts, and uncut audio notes from under his jacket. Reed's eyes became wide. Her tone was a mix of disbelief and sadness as she said, "You kept more." Kirk nodded, his eyes sad. "Karlie didn't have all the details, but I wanted you to see the whole picture." He took a swallow. "I want you to know I accept responsibility for all of my errors." The only sound in the room was Rasheeda's labored breathing. She did not examine the papers right away, but she did take them from Kirk's hand. "Why, at this time?" she asked quietly. "After everything, why bring more receipts?" Kirk said. Because context is necessary for truth. Not just a few scenes," he said. "You deserve the." Rasheeda's eyes moved from Kirk to the envelope and read the entire story. She pulled it open, carefully turning the pages. It was as if the room held its breath. "Let's start with another hotel receipt. For an out-of-state stay, this one, it was a business expense that Kirk had reported. The following page is it. Several rid-share invoices at 2 a.m. The last page, a transcript of Kirk's voicemail. Rasheeda's fingers shook as she set down the papers. But the voice whispered, "I know I messed up, but I need you to hear me." Tears filled her eyes as she gazed at Kirk. "This changes everything," she murmured in a whisper. Kirk gave a nod. "I hope it does." They sat in quiet for a minute, two people gazing at the destruction of their love spelled out in black and white. Then Rasheeda closed the envelope with a strong click. "I need time to digest," she replied, rising up. "I can't simply forgive and forget." Kirk rose too. "I understand," he answered. "I'll wait as long as it takes." They exited the room together but walked side by side, a delicate peace between them. Cameras stayed off, but production crew watched from the corridor, knowing this intimate reunion would impact every subsequent scenario. The following morning, shooting continued, but with a new plan. Producers opted to record a series of solitary confessionals capturing raw, unfiltered comments from every significant cast member. Karlie's involvement had been evident. She had performed her job. Fans were now curious to watch how each individual dealt with what Karlie had said. Rasheeda entered the confessional first. She seemed worn out but more composed than before. Melodramatically speaking, she addressed the camera. Her voice was steady as she said, "I've spent weeks torn between who I love and what I deserve. I had 100 reasons to stay and 100 more to go every time I looked at Kirk. However, I vowed to myself, the shadows are gone." She hesitated. Now is the moment to determine if this marriage can be salvaged, one brick at a time, truth by truth. That footage was marked by editors as a highlight for the next show, recognizing that admirers would eagerly await every word. Then Kirk's time came. With his shoulders straightened and his tone altered, he sat down. From his previous candid disclosure, his voice was one of silent determination. "I used to be a man, escaping my errors," he murmured. "However, evading the light simply served to deepen the shadows. I want to be a spouse who chose openness every day." He concluded his confession by apologizing to Rasheeda and their kids and pledging to let his deeds speak louder than any words. Later, viewers said that it was among the show's most heartfelt apologies. Then, MB's confessional examined how Karlie's behavior affected her larger circle of friends. She referred to herself as a spectator to Rasheeda's suffering and expressed regret for her prolonged silence. She name-checked Karlie for having the guts to reveal the tale and promised to be a better friend. The narrative is open. Spice then wrote down what she was thinking, comparing the family conflict on film to her own life. She cautioned about the price of publicity while applauding Karlie's courage. Her words, "Sometimes truth is painful, but it's the only path to healing," according to internet discussion, exploded as the team pulled these confessionals together. Rasheeda's tears and Karlie's piercing eyes appeared in memes. The viability of Kirk's redemption arc was discussed in podcasts. Fan surveys monitored opinions. Most took Rasheeda's side. A few believed Kirk was being unjustly criticized in the midst of the fan frenzy, while many respected Karlie. A teaser for the next episode was released by the producers. A series of emotional exchanges, serious admissions, and uncomfortable silences interspersed with the tagline, "The truth is just the beginning." Kirk and Rasheeda taped a tentative joint in the cast lounge over coffee, which was seen as a casual discussion. There were no producer notes or pre-written lines, just individuals attempting to connect. According to Rasheeda, "I want to trust you again," after a lengthy drink. Kirk hesitated, then tentatively touched her with his fingertips. "I'll earn it," he said quietly in response. That little gesture, the hopeful handshake, and the set crew were all recorded on video. A collective sigh was exhaled. Online viewers referred to the footage as the season's most optimistic moment. As after the day's shooting was over, Karlie stood by herself on the deserted stage and thought, "We did it," she texted Rasheeda, and her response arrived almost immediately. "Thank you." More rumors emerged in the days that followed. Others said that Karlie had hidden agendas. Some speculated that further receipts may surface, indicating that Kirk's secrets were more complex. Those rumors were heard by production, who were ready to change the plot again if necessary. Throughout it all, one thing stayed the same. Karlie slipped the strength of that final receipt. It had altered relationships, transformed lives, and served as a reminder to everyone that the most captivating drama on Love and Hip Hop Atlanta was the reality. The sound of Karlie's breakfast toast was still audible. The lot soon cleared out after shooting ended for the day, but the displays in the editing bays continued to light late into the night. Editors crouched over timelines, listening as microphones record Rasheeda's every tremor, every steely determination, every lapse in Kirk's apologies. Each footage was labeled "Must Air Priority Fan Reaction Clip" in Karlie's statement, as if they were collecting evidence for a trial rather than reality TV. Rasheeda, meanwhile, snuck out of the lot and into a rented flat a couple of miles away. Instead of loneliness, she craved seclusion. So she invited Spice, Mimi, and Bambi, along with a few other close friends. They came silently with provisions and assistance. It had the feel of a private party that wasn't intended for cameras. With tears streaming down her face once again, Rasheeda shut the door behind them and collapsed upon a velvet sofa. In spite of her prior power, Spice knelt next to her, providing a shoulder to lean on. "You did what you," Spice murmured. "Had to?" Mimi softly said. "Blankets, we have your return," Mimi stated in a soft voice. Bambi covered Rasheeda's hand with hers, reminding her, "You decide the next step," Bambi said. Rasheeda nodded, finding courage in their unity. Kirk was by himself in the production office on site, jumping through the notebook of commitments he had made. He had made thorough preparations, had candid talks every morning, attended therapy twice a week, and checked in with Rasheeda every day in tiny, meticulous handwriting. He gazed at the pages, questioning if paper and ink could ever form a solid enough foundation to restore confidence. Kirk disregarded all of the messages on his buzzing phone, including those from business partners setting up meetings and his kids requesting food. He had to concentrate on one exchange, the one with Rasheeda that was not yet captured on film. Kirk's manager was contacted by editors who wanted a quick on-camera update. Would he be involved in a situation with a group supper soon? Kirk was agreeable, but only if he could talk freely and without scripting, his manager retorted. Producers paused, and although prepared moments were valuable, they also ran the danger of losing control. Kirk decided to join one after a heated discussion. Additional communal supper at 8 in private rooms are a specialty of this upmarket Atlanta restaurant. A documentary approach would be used to film the incident. Absence of hints or prompts, just unfiltered communication. The actors showed up on the day of the shoot in little taxis, all dressed in muted, casual attire. The walls of the restaurant's private area were dark. Black and white photos of Atlanta's music icons in wood frames. A big 6-person table was waiting for them. Rasheeda, resplendent in a basic wrap dress, was at the head. Her eyes were resolute yet clouded. Kirk was seated across from her, his chin resting on his palm and his eyes bloodshot. Due to sleep deprivation, Rasheeda was on one side of Karlie and Bambi, while Spice and Mimi were on the other. As servers delivered water vehicles and bread baskets, the cameras rolled. As forks clattered across plates in the clumsy first minutes, cast members fidgeted and avoided eye contact. There was a long pause before Mimi cleared her throat. She said quietly, "This feels like a family dinner." However, there is a large elephant in the room. The tension was released by her words like a dot of hammer. Rasheda inhaled deeply. She said, "We've been here before," remarked, glancing at Kirk. "However, for the first time, it really comes down to me, him, and the receipts." Gently, she tapped the envelope next to her plate. At the mention, Kirk's fingers twitched. He swallowed hard and nodded. Kirk responded, "I brought something, too," and reached inside his jacket first. He pulled out a little box of voicemails that were printed and transcripts from friends who had attempted to alert him to the fact that he had slipped and confessed to the affair during work conversations. As Rasheeda saw him place them on the table, the camera panned in on her face. His voice was raw as he replied, "I want you to have the whole story." Nothing was omitted. Rasheeda's eyes began to well up with tears, but she faked a smile. "Thank you for trying, Kirk," she added. Her stern tone conveyed both caution and optimism. "We'll work through it." Bambi put her hand over Rasheeda's and stretched over. "Bambi," remarked, "we're here for you," as she surveyed the gathering. Leaning back, Karlie studied Kirk and said, "No judgment, just love. This is huge," she replied in a whisper. However, words are insufficient. For emphasis, she tapped the edge of the table with her own receipt folder. Action is more powerful than words. As the evening went on, thoughtful discussion about establishing new limits, employing a counselor, location-sharing transparency applications, and frequent lunchtime check-ins. Online viewers dissected each recommendation, arguing about whether ones were sincere or gimmicky. When the lunch was over, Kirk got up and requested a time to talk. The room became silent. Hands clasped, he strolled carefully around the table. "I am aware that I betrayed your confidence." He started staring at Rasheeda. "I harmed our friends, our family, and you. I don't expect to be forgiven right away, but I swear that I will choose honesty every single day. I'll take responsibility. Let me show you my universe. No secrets. Do you want evidence? I have my phone open. I have accounts open." He took a step forward, clear yet quiet voice. "You are my choice." Rasheeda's mouth quivered. She glanced around at the steady stare of her support. Karlie, Bambi nodded. Spick's eyes were full of tears. Mimi's support. Then she turned. She got up and walked to stand face to face with Kirk. "You're heard," she stated in a firm yet trembling voice. "And I'm open to seeing." She extended her hand, but this is over. "If I ever see shadows again," he said, taking his hand. Kirk squeezing her hand, they showed relief and resolution, and the camera stayed on as they gave each other a hug that was a statement of caution and forgiveness, a tenuous truce. Producers recorded off-camera tears and grins as the team acknowledged the emotional achievement with a quiet applause as the sequence ended. That evening, she shared a black and white picture of the two of them on her own Instagram, not the show's account, but her private one, knowing that the video would be a ratings powerhouse and that it would also have a genuine effect on viewers. It showed their clasped hands lying on the table.